Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Inshallah, we'll continue our talk about the life of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu today. We were talking about his life in the society, and last week we talked about Umar's life with respect to his haybah, or his the way the people respected him. We talked about that last week, and as well as we talked about how he was very keen to mix with the people, meet the people, to understand the needs of the people so he can execute the job Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon him. And also, we talked about how he disciplined some of the leaders of the Muslims, because they were ruling over the people because he's the one who appointed them. So they were kind of, you can think of this way, as they were helping him to fulfill his task. And of course, they were also accountable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So today, inshallah, we'll continue on. And also we talked about actually how he denounced some of the bad behaviors in the society. And previous week, then last week, we also talked about how he appreciated the good actions the people were doing. These, both of them are very important, that you appreciate something good that was done in the past or happening in the society. At the same time, you make sure that if there is something bad is happening, that you take all the precautions to prevent them to happen, or if they do happen, then you take the right action to make sure that it does not happen again. So we talked about that. So today, inshallah, we'll talk about, one is how he made sure that the thoughts of the society are intact according to Quran and Sunnah. That's one aspect of it, that which goes along with one of the basic concept of Islam, which is Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar, that how to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. And another aspect we talk about is going to be how he took care of the affairs in the market, which is kind of a glimpse towards the economic system in Islam. And the reason it is important to discuss that aspect also is, so we understand that this economic system, Islam provides a comprehensive economic system for the mankind. It is not, sometimes people think of it, Islam, as only giving us some, unfortunately, this is the wrong understanding that some people have, as if Islam provides us some basic rituals of ibadat, and to a certain extent, things like zakat and riba is discussed in Islam. That's not the case when it comes to economic system. It gives you a system. When we say economic system, it means that it provides us how to gather the wealth and to distribute the wealth. It has both aspects in Islam. So we're not talking about economic science. Many times people think of economic science as economic system. Economic science is a completely different subject. So Islam provides an economic system that deals with how you collect the funds and how you distribute the funds among the people, to make sure that all the collection and distribution is done correctly, and whatever actions are happening for financial dealings are done according to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we see some of the examples, of course, this is not a talk about economic system that we will go into the detail of economic system. Rather, we'll talk about some of the measures that Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh took that shows just a little bit of an idea of the economic system in Islam and how it was implemented, and how it was good for not only at that time, but there are lessons for us to learn from them as well. Now, when we talk about his idea of making sure that people are following the correct aqidah, the issue of tawheed, and how making sure that there is no deviation in Islam happens from the thoughts perspective. Many a times people think of as if the ruler is out there just to protect you physically or in a material manner. It's not only that. In Islam, you want to make sure that the thoughts of the people are also intact according to the Quran and Sunnah as well. So he was very keen to make sure that there is no deviation happens in Islam, and there's no innovation or bid'ah happens within Islam as well. There are many stories about this. I'll go through very few of them, and some of them are da'if also. So I will try to avoid those. Hopefully, I will not be mentioning those. But at the end of the day, of course, we understand that when we are going over the seerah of the Sahaba of Rasulullah, we are not talking about we are extracting rules from there. Yeah. So we are talking about to understand how they implemented the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we can see some practical things. This is not something very theoretical when we talk about Islam. Islam was implemented over the mankind for 13th century. So it's not like it was just something in the books. Now, one of the examples when we talk about the Iman and the Aqidah aspect of it to make sure it is correct, it stays correct, was Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, when he was in the Kaaba, and there's a hadith reported by Abis ibn Rabi'ah. He says that Umar al-Khattab came to the black stone, so Hajar al-Aswad, and he kissed it. See, and then he said, I know that you are just a stone. You do not cause harm or bring benefit. If I had not seen Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam kiss you, I would not have kissed you. And this is a very important aspect, especially when we talk about the society where people were worshipping idols, and specifically idols which are made of stones also. And then you go and kiss the stone. So you want to make sure that this is what Umar al-Khattab was doing here, to make sure people understand that we are not hoping anything from that black stone. There's no benefit that black stone can bring to us. The only reason he was doing that because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did that. And he wanted to make sure that people understood that as well. And especially the person of that stature of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, when he is doing action like that, it is important that it is backed up with some explanation. We find sometimes nowadays, even so-called, I'm not going to name the names here, but we can find so-called celebrity scholars, they will be doing things that will fall under, actually, could be fall under shirk even. And then that kind of a personality needs to explain what he has done. Look, Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, a person like him about whom Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave the glad tidings of Jannah in this dunya, even that person is making sure that it's clear to the people that this, when he's doing this action like this, it is because of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not because of something else. Yeah? So that's about an action that's supported by Rasulullah. Now, if a person, he is wearing a cross, or he is staying silent or being part of ceremonies where Muslims are doing actions which are out of Islam and saying nothing, that these are questionable acts. They have to answer these kind of questions that are raised against them, or they have done these actions. Okay, now similarly, there was a famous a tree everybody know that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he took the bay'ah during the whole issue of the Sulh Hudaybiyah, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam took the bay'ah, or the allegiance, oath of allegiance, from the people to if Uthman radiallahu anhu was killed by the kuffar, then they will go and fight with the Meccans. So the bay'ah was taken, and that the tree is called Ar-Ridwan also. So the people, Umar al-Khattab found out that people were going to that specific tree and they were praying there. They were not praying to the tree even though, but they were praying there at that tree. So to make sure that people do not make that place as a place of worship, or end up later on down the road when people will not have knowledge, end up worshiping the tree. So he ordered that to cut down the tree. So see, the point here is, see, as a statesman, as the leader, he was making sure even to that extent that people do not innovate anything in Islam. Similarly, there's some of the people, they used to try to go to any other place where Rasulullah prayed, they would go and start praying there, making just like a specific task to go to a place where Rasulullah prayed and go pray there. So Umar wanted to make sure that people do not make this, because in the past, people started making, like, for example, even the graves of the prophets as a place of worship, or they start going to the places where they went and they start worshiping there. So he wants to make sure that it is clear to the people that they don't do this, because that will again end up in the very same way, and previous nations were destroyed because of that. So he said, and he made sure people know, if you are on your way and you happen to be a place where Rasul prayed, yes, pray, there's no problem. But do not make that place as the thinking of this is the place for prayers only. Another story around this very similar kind of issue of the Aqidah was which we have discussed last week, 2 weeks ago or so, when Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh was removed from his position during the time of Umar al-Khattab, when he became in charge, he became the Amir al-Mu'mineen. And even though he was leading the army at Yarmouk, and he is the one who made sure that Khalid bin Walid is removed, and he said like this, I am not dismissing Khalid out of anger or betrayal. Rather, the people have become confused because of him, as if the victory comes from Khalid bin Walid. To make sure people understand that Nusra, the victory, comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu, he took it very nicely, as we have discussed in the past as well. And his response was right away, he gave the charge to Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah radiallahu anhu, and there was no any kind of dissatisfaction from the side of Khalid bin Walid, even though many of the Orientalists and the ones who like to paint a wrong picture about Islam, they try to even abuse this incident as well. Now, another story is about when Muawiyah bin Qurra, he said that Umar al-Khattab met some people from Yemen, and he asked them, who are these people? So they said, we are al-mutawakkilun. Al-mutawakkilun means those people who put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning they were not doing anything. They were more of just depending on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're saying they trust in Allah, Allah will provide them everything, and doing nothing. So he said, no, you are al-mutawakkilun. You are not mutawakkilun. You are mutawakkilun, meaning you are expecting others to feed you. You're not doing anything. You expect others to do things for you. You are not that. And he said like this, that those who put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are those who sow seed in the ground and put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what means mutawakkilun. Trusting in Allah, relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is supposed to be all supposed to have all the time. But at the same time, we are asked to perform actions to get the results as well. We continue to believe in Allah, rely on Allah before action, during action, and after the action. Okay, but the action has to be done as well. Okay, now moving on to the next subject regarding some of the worships also. And inshallah, because of the lack of time, I will not go into too much of details. But one aspect I want to make sure to understand is Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, he understood the Kitab Allah and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he understood that the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes care of all the affairs of life. It is not restricted to some rituals, some ibadat only, or akhlaq, meaning the manners and morals. Rather, it deals with all affairs, meaning about the rulingship, financial policies, or interactions or punishments, and or even international relationship, education system policies, whatsoever it is, Islam deals with all those things. And also it deals with the worship, such as the salah, zakah, hajj, and any kind of ibadah that we talk about, including dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when it comes to even things like Salatul Jum'ah, he was very keen to make sure people are doing the ibadat in the proper manner as well. Like one of the story mentions that reported by Salim bin Abdullah, that Umar al-Khattab was standing for the Jum'ah khutbah. He was delivering the khutbah. A man came and he was from the Muhajirin. meaning the one who migrated from early Muhajirin. It's not like even a person you talk about, he's ignorant or whatsoever, or he doesn't know anything about Islam, or he's just a new Muslim or something. I'm talking about from the early Muhajirin. He came from Sahaba of Rasulullah. So Umar called out to him and he said, "What time is it?" Because he's coming in when the khutbah is already going on. And he said, "I was busy, then I came home until I heard the adhan. As soon as I heard it, I did wudu and came." So Umar ibn Khattab said, "Oh, okay. So you only made wudu?" He said, "I know Rasulullah said Rasulullah used to enjoy the ghusl, used to do the ghusl also for the Salatul Jummah. So you just made wudu and came." So he wants to make sure that even that aspect has been covered by the people. But today, what we find is a lot of time that people do not, Imam is the one who shows up first. He stays and waits for the people to come for Salah. And then the Salatul Jummah started. Many of the people, unfortunately, they wait for the Iqamah and then they will come and join the Salatul Jummah. And look how keen Umar ibn Khattab was to make sure people are there, because of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that talks about Salatul Jummah, that the Malaika, they come and they register the names of all the people who are coming in for Salatul Jummah. The moment Imam sits at the place when he says Assalamu alaikum, and he sits and the adhan is performed, the Malaika, they close the registers and that's it, the people who are joining Salatul Jummah. So it is highly recommended for us to be there for Salatul Jummah before the adhan happens. Okay, so Umar, the point here is Umar was making sure that people do not leave even these small things. It's not a small thing, first of all, but he was very keen to make sure that people are performing the things in the correct manner. Similarly, about women coming to the Masjid. This is something in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was common, that women used to come for Salah. In Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that if the wife of any one of you asks permission to go to the mosque, do not forbid her. That's what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said very clearly. And the wife of Umar ibn Khattab asked, she used to come for Salah to the Masjid. And Umar told her, "You know what I like," meaning he did not like women to go out in the to places like this. She said, "By Allah, I will not stop unless you forbid me. If you forbid me," she said, she will stop. And the reports talk about that the wife of Umar, she continued to come to the Masjid. Even the day Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu was stabbed, she was in the Masjid. She was in the Masjid. So that shows Umar understood the command of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even what his desire was. His desire was not to let her go, even though it was allowed for him to stop, because it's not an obligation on the women to go to the Masjid. But hearing the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that was enough for him to overcome whatever he desired. He'd rather stick with what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. And he was not just a talk. Whatever he was saying, he was showing in his actions as well. And Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu was famous for, during the prayers, he would start crying. Even 2 or 3 rows down, you can hear him sobbing when he's praying, when he's reciting the Quran. And even to the point that he used to tell to the people, and there's a hadith reported by Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu. Umar ibn Khattab did not report too many hadiths, by the way, but this is one of the hadith that Umar ibn Khattab reported. And he said that whoever missed any of his night prayers that he does, or part of it he misses, then he should do it between the Fajr and the Dhuhr. Between the Fajr and the Dhuhr. So because Sunnah prayers, you can do it anytime. And it is allowed to pray at that time. Of course, he's talking about time which is allowed for do the nafilah. So he said, there's a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that says, should anyone fall asleep or fail to recite his portion of the Quran, meaning staying up night during the nighttime or part of it, if he does it between the dawn and the noon prayer, it will be recorded for him as though he had recited it during the nighttime. Okay. Actually, this is talking about the recitation of the Quran also. Now, talking about one of the incidents that happened in the time of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu was Salatul Tarawih. Tarawih is many of times people think of it as if this is something Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh, he has innovated. The Tarawih, Salatul Tarawih in the Jama'ah. And from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam until Umar ibn Khattab, people either used to pray the Salatul Tarawih that we do in Ramadan individually, or small groups of people, multiple people are praying on their own. So once he saw that people were praying like that, so he said, it would be nice if we unite them all. And he made Ubay bin Ka'b, one of the reciters of the Quran, that he should lead and the others can pray behind him. And the next night they did this. Everybody was praying, and Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu saw people praying like this, and he said something which have been taken completely out of proportion nowadays and being used. He said, what a nice bid'at al-hasana, he said basically, a beautiful bid'ah, innovation. Now people think of it as if it is allowed for us to have beautiful innovations to be added in Islam, while the ugly ones we don't have to do that. That's not true. What Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh did at that time was not a bid'ah that we say in the istilah, in the technical terms. Because bid'ah in general means something beautiful. But here, what Umar was saying, or action that he undertook, number one thing to understand is, it was within the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because the hadith that talks about that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the month of Ramadan, he was praying in the middle of the night. And people saw, and they stood behind Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Next night, same thing happened. People were praying, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the front. And this happened about 3 times. And the 4th night, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not come out. Okay? So, and then Rasulullah sallallahu in the morning when Sahaba asked what happened, so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned that he did not want this to become an obligation. That's why he did not come out. So now here the point I'd like to make here to make sure it's clear is this action of praying Salatul Tarawih was taken from the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was leading and Sahaba were praying behind him. He did not stop this action for 3 days. So that shows that it is allowed to pray like that as well. So it's not something that is considered as innovation, because what Umar ibn Khattab was saying was within the context of when the people were praying separately and they prayed together, he looked at this as something which is as a bid'ah, which is the hasan, which is beautiful. Not that he's adding something new to Islam. Adding something new to Islam for the ibadat, that's considered as bid'ah, which is not allowed. This is something which is allowed. Okay. Now, let's see the time, how much we can move forward today. Okay. Now, when it comes to the zakah and the hajj, for example, he made sure that zakah is collected in the right manner and the people are given proper understanding about the zakah and the hajj. So he was making sure that it is done also properly and people are taught about this. And all the representatives that he had who were ruling over the people, he was making sure that the ones who are representatives over the people, they are aware of the rituals of the hajj. They are teaching people those rituals as well. They're leading the hajj, which is obligatory, and teaching them the Sharia rulings regarding that. And these people, including Umar al-Khattab, used to lead the Salatul Jum'ah, meaning they are the one who's giving the khutbahs as well. Now, compare this to today's leaders. How many of these leaders are going to teach the people, among the Muslims I'm talking about? Of course, we don't have the Khulafa who are ruling by Islam, but whatever the leaders we have, how many of them really know even the Sharia rulings of the Hajj? That they forget about teaching the others. How many of them really can lead the Salah? Or can go and give the khutbah so they can teach the people about Islam? This is the kind of a mess that we are living in, unfortunately, today. So, and that goes back to, of course, because of the kind of a system of life we are living in today, which is a secular way of life where people are living other than the system which are implemented over the Muslims today are not Islamic systems. Actually, they are other than Islam. Now, moving on to the things, inshallah, in the next 10 minutes, I'll try to cover about his market, how he took care of the markets, meaning how he was running the affairs of the people when it comes to the economic system. He was very concerned. He wanted to make sure. He used to go into the market. He used to have his stick in his hand, and he would be making sure that people who are involved in the businesses, they are aware of the rules of the businesses in Islam. They cannot be the one who are dealing with the economic system or the buying and selling, especially talking about the sellers, or they are in the trade business, and they are not aware of the rulings of Sharia regarding the action that they're undertaking. Because we understand that every action we undertake as Muslims, we have to know the hukum Sharia regarding that. So the people who are involved with marketplaces, the people who are running the businesses, they should be well aware of the rulings regarding that. That includes the issue of the riba, that includes the issue of the contracts, that includes the issue of hoarding, that includes the issue of monopoly, and whatsoever, and on and on and on. So all those things have to be known to these people who are dealing with. Like, for example, there's a Sahabi of Rasulullah who was a Badri Sahabi. Badri Sahabi means he is a giant among the Sahaba, if you want to call it. The one who participated in Ghazwat al-Badr. Now, Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh, he was in the market, and he asked Khattab ibn Abi Balta'. He's a famous Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He asked him, how do you sell, O Khattab radiallahu anh? He said, well, I sell 2 mud. Mud is one of the measure of selling certain kind of products. So he said 2 mud for 1 dirham. So he goes, okay. So he said, you go and buy you go outside the city at the gates of the city, and you buy all of it, bring it, and then you sell for 2 muds for 1 dirham. Because the normal price in general was you would get 4 mud for 1 dirham. And he was doing 2. So now, because he had, there's a term in Arabic uses ihtikar. Ihtikar is, sometimes people try to make, it is connected with hoarding, but it's actually monopoly. But obviously, it will happen after the hoarding, because you have taken everything, okay? And then after that, you are setting the price. And you're setting the price in a manner that you are taking more money than the product you had that's worth. Don't forget that in Islam, it is not allowed for the ruler to do the price fixing. Because there was a time Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, things were becoming expensive, and they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asking, Ya Rasulullah, why don't you fix the prices of the things so they become affordable for us? Rasulullah said, this is the job, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who does it. He's the price fixer. I cannot be on the day of judgment be accountable for this. So even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was the ruler over the Muslims, even he did not have the right to fix the prices. So price fixing is not allowed in Islam. Umar ibn Khattab is not doing a price fixing so we will be clear here. He is making sure that monopoly does not happen here, or people are not abused because of they are in need of something, and somebody who has collected that specific product, and he is the only source that they can buy from, and now he's selling it at much higher prices. So this is different than price fixing. That's why he said to sell it at this price, because this is the right price of the things. Otherwise, in Islam, the prices are set by the market itself. Market automatically balances out what the price of the thing should be. When it comes to ihtikar, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam even said that he said, "Ihtikaru ta'ami fil harami al-haddun fi." It means that storing of food for monopoly. So you store the food in the haram. He's saying you are this is a profanation of you're crossing the had here of the sanctity of the haram. So it is not allowed to do an action like this. Okay. Now similarly, other hadith says la yahtakiru illa khati'u, meaning that the one who does the monopoly, except who does the action of monopoly, except the one who's a sinner, the one who does the khata. So it's not allowed to do monopoly. This is what Umar bin Khattab was doing when he was dealing with Hatib bin Balta, one of the Badri Sahabi, radiallahu anh. Even to him, he made sure that he does not get into the action of monopoly. And today, we know that there are many, many different ways have been used for monopolization of many products. If you look at there are very few big giant corporations who own everything. And then they do the price setting and they do the monopoly of many of the products, and they can take whatever the price they want. And person cannot question it because they are the only source to get even those basic necessity things from those people. Okay. Now, when it comes to hoarding, there are, I have some time, right? Okay. So when it comes to hoarding, Umar bin Khattab radiallahu an, there are stories mentioned about that he would go to the marketplaces and make sure that there is nobody out there who is gathering or hoarding any of the product like that and trying to sell people at a much higher prices. And he would be walking around with a stick and making sure that there is nobody is doing that in the marketplaces. Okay. And like an example was mentioned that says that a man bought some olive oil, which he began to sell in the market for a price other than which people usually pay. Umar said to him, either sell it at the market price or leave our market, for we will not force you to stick to a price. And he made him leave because price fixing is not allowed. But what he was doing was, he is the sole person who had this olive oil there. So he wanted to make sure that it is sold by either at the right price, if he's the only one who has it, or other people are coming in and they compete with the price, and the price will automatically get to a normal price in the marketplace. Now, Umar was very keen about people are aware of what is halal and haram if they are involved in the business. He said, no one should sit in our market who does not know what riba is, for example. Okay. And he would walk around in the market and hit some merchants with his stick and say, no one should sell in our marketplace except one who has understanding of the rules of Islam. Otherwise, he's going to consume riba, whether he wants it or not. Because he will not even know. He will be dealing with the riba now. That's why you must know the rules first when you are dealing. And we know the hukum shari is this about actions, that when you are involving or you're undertaking an action, you must know the hukum regarding the action first. You don't act and then say, oh, I did not know, I did it. No, you must know the ruling regarding an action. All right. Inshallah, this is the last quick example, and then we'll stop for today. So when it comes to marketplace, Umar bin Khattab radiallahu an, he appointed Sulaiman bin Hathama in charge of markets. And he appointed Sa'ib ibn Yazid as his agent in charge of market of Medina. And then other markets, he assigned other people, like Abdullah bin Utbah, Ibn Masud also was one of them in Medina. And whichever market was there, he assigned a person to go and make sure the business in the market is running according to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's one of the example, which is about Talha bin Ubaidullah, another great Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he was dealing with somebody. He wanted to sell some of his gold. He wanted to take the dirham instead of the gold that he had. So Talha bin Ubaidullah said that, let me see your gold, and when the servants will come, and then we can give you the silver tomorrow when you come. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu an, right away, he stopped Talha bin Ubaidullah. See, remember, Talha bin Ubaidullah is another Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam who was also from Ashra Mubashara. Yeah? So he's another great Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even him, he was told, Umar stopped him. And he said, the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said about the gold, buying and selling gold, exchange of silver and gold even. It has to be hand to hand. When you're buying gold, It has to be in the same majlis, same gathering. You take, for example, you're taking silver, you giving gold in replacement, then it has to be in the same gathering, because there can be riba involved in this case. And also Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh made sure that Talha bin Ubaidullah does not get involved in this kind of action. And that was a norm for all those transactions that were happening in the markets during the time of Umar bin Khattab. This is just some of the examples I mentioned from his life directly in which he was involved. Of course, he was a ruler, and he made sure all the people who were under him, they were executing the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet man. So the point I want to make sure at the end, so we'll go with this, is, look, this is just a very small glimpse of the system of Islam from the economic perspective, the economic system. It goes into the detail for every transaction that we undertake economically, and Islam tells us that how to deal with it. And this is just to give us some sense of it, that Islamic economic system is not limited to just zakah and riba. Rather, it is a comprehensive system, and today the kind of the economic situation, financial situation that we are going through, again, it reminds us how much we need Islam back in our lives that can solve these problems that exist in the world. So this is just to remind us that, okay, look, this was implemented. Islam was running the economic affairs also of the mankind, the Islamic state that was there for 13 centuries, according to Islam and Islam only. Okay, so inshallah, if there is any questions or comments regarding the subject that was covered today,